you guys.
Okay. So, Simon, do you want to introduce yourself? You're new.
Yes, I'm from Lindum Group, Group Director, and one of my responsibilities is to look after the health and safety team. We have 7 health and safety advisors who regularly go around the various sites. And prior to this, I was MD of the Lindum Construction Division for 18 odd years. And prior to that, a contracts manager. So I have I suppose, a bit of practical knowledge of how construction sites work and some of the challenges that are faced.
Awesome.
Okay. Jackson.
Sorry, I couldn't find the button. Hi all, I'm Jackson Turmel. I'm a health and safety advisor and I work for ISG in the South Wales region. And I've been involved in these calls sort of just to kind of provide that sort of connection to the sites and a bit of advice on how these things actually work on the projects.
Okay. Mark.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Mortel. Yep. I'm the head of health and safety for ISG UK Construction, and essentially I work with Jackson.
Okay. Martin H.
Morning, my name is Martin Hall. I am the Safety Health Environment Director for Morgan Sindall Construction.
Okay, thank you. Gareth.
Hi, Gareth Evans, Group Health, Safety, Quality Environment Director for Yonder.
Okay. Dave Newitt.
Hi everybody, I'm CEO for Yonder.
John Connolly.
Morning, I'm John Connolly. I run an organisation called C40I, which is the Centre for Digital Innovation. It's a privately owned and managed technology incubator in Hull and Northallerton, actually, as of next week. There you go.
Okay. And I'm Gerard. I'm the exec chairman for Pagabo and Cypro and SPC and all things us. Just to add a bit more colour to John Martin, actually, he's probably played it down a little bit. John's joined us as CTO for all of our businesses, so he's actually putting together a strategy for our whole digital approach now. So John's looking after Cypro, Pagabo, Social Profit, and any of the technologies we sort of do. So you know, Olivia is part of John's very quick input into the business. So he's already looking at reshaping the way we do things, fast prototyping, product owners everywhere, proper. You know, John's background was working in a fast-growing PE-backed organisation, so he's got a lot of experience of technology. So I thought I'd just big you up a little bit there, John. Just a little bit there.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Always big up away. No problem.
Okay. All right. So that's great. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Mark French can't be with us today. He's sent apologies, but he's also sent some notes. So I think this morning we wanted to really just welcome Simon at Lindum, because we said we would bring Lindum in, so it's great to have Lindum here, and that's a great, you know, thanks for joining us and taking some time out of your diary. So I think this morning we wanted to start to show you some of the ideas we've been developing for iSight. That's still its working title, and I think Charlie can give us a bit of an update on the hardware, but I think if we hand across to Olivia and Charlie, do you want to run through, is it Charlie, do you want to just run through with Olivia, or how? I don't know how you want to run.
Yeah. So Olivia's going to drive because she's technically savvy, and I'll talk over it. So.
Okay. All right. So just as a bit of context, then this is a clickable vision using, is it Adobe? Is it?
Yeah,
Adobe XD.
Yeah, Adobe XD. So this is the way we sort of start to do fast prototyping now, to try and iron out the customer journey and get that. So it's not exactly as the graphics might look, but it's supposed to be a fair representation of what we want. So the idea here is to look at what we're doing. If some of the customer journeys are not right, we get these right before we commit to software. I think Gareth and some of the others who've got a lot of experiences will understand that sort of process. So I'll mute myself now and hand over to Charlie and Olivia.
Cool. Cheers. Olivia, you should be able to share your screen. So.
All right. So If I can't see that, cool.
It's not yet. There we go.
Now?
Yep.
Perfect.
Excellent. So yeah, this is our kind of prototype of iSight. This is it's a desktop version, as you can see. So it's kind of yeah, as Gerard said, it's not functioning yet, but this is kind of the ideas that we're taking through. So you can see the screens that we've kind of envisaged what we think it looks like. But part of this after the presentation, whether it be for your comments, your ideas of how you want to add to it, what you think should be done differently, that sort of stuff. So remaining that kind of collaborative process. But yeah, this is kind of our vision of what we've taken from these discussions beforehand. So Olivia, do you want to get cracking, sort of showing off the signing up process?
Yep.
So obviously, as a new iSight user here, we tried to make it as intuitive as possible. So it's all the usual kind of stuff when you sign up for like LinkedIn, Facebook, that sort of stuff and things. So you're getting your email in, username, and it takes you through these kind of easy to follow screens. So you got getting all the crucial sort of details like date of birth, crucially then also your CSCS card number as well. What we're planning to do is get that to communicate with CSCS and pull all the information through so that there's less inputting from people when they do sign up. Your company details as well. We're thinking very much of having companies registered onto this as well. It just makes things a lot easier when it comes to kind of descriptions of jobs and all sorts of stuff, and knowing who's coming on site when. So you can kind of, if you can connect people up with companies, it makes things a hell of a lot easier than just having random contractors running around. Emergency contact details. Obviously, it's a health and safety app predominantly, so having all these kind of details in it, which will make things easy. So obviously, if there is an accident, you can pull up the details of someone who's in that accident, know exactly who emergency contact numbers are, all that sort of stuff and things. And then your underlying medical conditions. So I think the example here is vertigo, but yeah, anything you can really think of there, sort of asthma, that kind of thing. And then allergies as well. Obviously important stuff like, being allergic to plasters, that kind of thing, all useful stuff that a first aider kind of wants to know, but doesn't necessarily have that access to. And any ongoing medications and things. Again, all that information will be kept quite private to the contractor and then to only sort of first aiders and the site manager who's allowed to see it. That sort of information wouldn't be shared between contractors because it'd be sort of a bit of a GDPR nightmare and stuff, and also a bit of an invasion of privacy. So then following on from that, carrying on the sign-up process, going to your qualifications and training. As I said earlier, we've put in the CSCS card number. That will then pull through the qualifications from CSCS. So these ones are actually mild qualifications from a previous job. And then you can add in other ones as well. So, finding different qualification providers, sort of thing, the CITP there, qualification titles. So I don't know what that one is, abrasive wheels. And then
it was an example I found on the internet.
That's fine. Crucially, then you can add in certificates. So whether that is taking a photo of it or just a PDF of it or something, so that that's then available to site managers when they do look at enrollment, and you can that's all stored on like a wallet with the app and stuff, things like that. So the site manager can be sure.
Can I just make a comment on that, please, Charlie? So here, this is allowing you to add qualifications and information, but one of the things we would be looking to do is to use APIs to connect to existing providers. Yeah. So these would just connect to it. So being qualifications and competencies being a core anchor functionality, we'd want to be able to connect most of this where possible.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So we're looking for as little input from people as possible, but and as everyone's trying to kind of move more digital, we're hoping that we can do that via pulling through APIs.
Is that a message?
Right, Mark, yeah, Mark's struggling. Is anyone else struggling to hear me?
Yep. Fine. Hey, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fine for me.
Okay. So I know my Wi-Fi is pretty dodgy at the moment, but yeah, just shout if I disappear. So. So then, so after you've done all that, just a little area to review. You can edit anything that you see which isn't quite right, because because as I say, we are trying to pull through stuff as automatically as possible. So there may be some issues based with stuff which you haven't actually inputted yourself, so you can edit those. Yeah, that's kind of your sign-in process then. So I think we can then confirm all that. With that, you'll get you'll get sent an email and things, and welcome to iSight kind of digital package, all that sort of stuff via email. And you go onto login here. So it's a simple sort of sign-in process. We'd be looking to include, we've got things like sign in with Microsoft there. We'd also be looking to include like facial recognition on mobile app as well. Just all the sort of usual stuff you'd expect from technology these days. So if we log into that, so this is kind of what we're thinking of an initial screen that you'd see. We're calling it a kind of a daily digest screen. So you've got information about the site that you're on, kind of thing. So the amount of people on site that day, any new starters coming, equipment on site, any kind of new equipment coming in, bit of an API link to all the weather conditions on a site of what's going to be turning up that day as well. So you've got that there for you. And then some enrollment details as well. So who's on site, which company they're from, whether they've been enrolled or not, and their ID and a few of their personal details of when they're going to be on and off site. So this is a kind of movable feast, this digest. I think any kind of more information we add in, I think we'll be looking to sort of like say you can populate your own kind of welcome screen for that kind of information that you want to see each morning. So again, but that's just a little idea of what we think it could look like.
Charlie, is it just worth noting the different types of users at this point, just so we can talk.
You're probably right there. So I think, in order to make this work and it to be as useful as possible for everyone involved, we're looking to build this on quite a few different permission levels. So you'd have your kind of site manager permission level, you'd have your HNS director permission level, you'd have your contractor permission level. So for example, a site manager will be able to see a lot of information about people. They'll be able to see all the equipment, they'll be able to see all the people on site, when they've enrolled, all their health and safety data, accident data, that kind of stuff. As a contractor, we don't want them seeing all of that because it's a bit distracting, and they also don't really need to know. And I think we all kind of know contractors don't want to be faffing around with a lot of this stuff. They want to get onto site, sign on via as quick and easy possible process as possible, and get on with their day. They don't want to be looking at what different equipment's on site and all that sort of stuff. So we're looking at building these different permission levels for it. So for example, this screen here would be kind of what a site manager would probably be looking at when they came on. I think a contractor, you'd probably just be looking at more of the simple stuff like what's the weather going to be like today and things. So maybe stuff a little bit more pertinent to them rather than when equipment's being delivered to site or who new is coming onto site. So again, these kind of permission levels, I think it's it's building up as many different levels as we think necessary. So whether an equipment manager would need a certain level or a health and safety manager would need a certain level, I think that's something up for discussion. We've identified quite a few ourselves, but again, this might be something which we could bring into the chat later on. So this is once you've got past that daily digest screen, this is your kind of everyday dashboard screen really. So we've got a map of the site. Obviously this one's just taken from Hull. It would be far more zoomed in than that. Your site attendees, your equipment, and a little alerts. And Liv's just going to demonstrate these are all kind of movable, and you can pick what you want to see, and you can sort of say, oh, get rid of site attendees and just look at equipment, and that brings up a bit more detail. So you can kind of interrogate that data a little bit more. And then on the right there is your alerts section as well. That would just be your daily kind of, this is so-and-so is coming on site at 2 p.m. or something, prepare for that. We've got a delivery at 1 p.m., that kind of thing. So you should be able to sort of know what's happening throughout the day then. So then if you expand the map a little bit more, so this is the Marauders map thing, which Gerard has talked about. So you can see people moving around site. And then you can then click onto one of those dots, get a bit more information about that person on site. So saying that, it's been clicked on John Martin there. You can see his kind of like trail throughout the day as he's been walking around and things, and you can go through and you can see on the right in that dashboard all the details, where he's from, his kind of emergency contact and some things like that, qualifications. So therefore, you know, you get that kind of full picture of what that particular contractor, of who he is or who she is, and what they're capable of and what they, you know, they should be allowed to be doing. So. And then rolling on to accidents and incidents. So something this again would be only visible to say like an H&S manager or a site manager. Can pull up the site's kind of library of accidents and incidents. Again, one of the levels we're probably looking at is an H&S director, where they'll have access to a lot of different sites and be able to see all this kind of info. So you can sort of filter on the different reports that you're looking for by, you know, your report category, your user, whether it was RID or reportable or not. Yeah, its current status as well. And then when you want to add in a new report, you can go press that button there. So crucially here, you can add in either an accident or a near miss. So we're going to add an accident to start off with. So here you've got details of the injured person. This will be a drop-down list. You already know who's enrolled on your site, so you know everyone there. So therefore, yeah, we can say, right, it's Olivia who's been in an accident, drop-down, got all of that, auto-populates all that information for the accident record there. Then you go through your injury type and your injury detail. I mean, this kind of setup for kind of accident reporting online will be pretty familiar to most of you. You've all got kind of similar systems, I'd imagine. So yeah, your injury result, injury causes, areas affected. You can add and remove those as you see fit, as necessary. So you've got then the location there, so you obviously know what site it is. We're thinking about using What 3 Words, if you've heard of that. That's that kind of emergency location software. So we can get that meter square of where the accident actually happened. Your date and your times recorded. So this is obviously crucial for the kind of collecting of information. So we'll know, you know, if it's the 19th of March at 12:29, we'll know exactly what the weather was then. We'll know exactly how many people were on site. We'll know all of the details which we're collecting around it, so we can build that picture of what happened during the accident and what those what that information, sorry, what the environmental sort of circumstances were for it. A bit more detail on
just on that point, Charlie. That's really building on what Dave said a couple of meetings ago, which is about trying to get that artificial intelligence, start to think about that. Because if we can get the AI building into this, it becomes more of a useful tool. It's not about accidents anymore. It's about prevention, and it's about that whole environmental piece. Yeah. What's going on? It was on that thing. Because you know, there'll obviously be technologies we can integrate, which will allow us to do that, and it's about having the platform to do that. Okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly where the weather comes in as well. It's a real that black box, you know. As that happens, what's the weather like in all the different systems? So yeah, it becomes.
And that's exactly how aircraft work. You know, the actual crash is one element of probably, you know, hundreds of data points, and I think that's how you prevent things in the future.
Just quick. What other risks could you put on? Could you put on like live power and because if you think about it, what you're trying to do is make people apparent of the risks. If you make a human apparent of the risks, they're sort of self-protection. And a lot of what me and Gareth see is the fact that the individual wasn't made apparent of the risks, that either did the near miss or got the red card, or they weren't apparent of the risks that they were taking. They weren't blatantly. Sometimes you do get that, but a lot of it is through lack of education. So in that moment, education, right? You look at this, right? Have you ticked off that you understand the risks of the task that you're doing at the, and it's things like if you went to an area and you knew that there'd been 2 previous near misses in that area from these 2 things, it immediately highlights your awareness to the risks.
Maybe then, Dave, you know that first page when you log in and it's got how many people are on site, maybe you can add more risks to that about what's going on live, this, like, that would be more, if you could give us some ideas of that, we could show examples of that. And then once we know what it is, we can work out how to get those data points. Because I think you're right, you almost, and I'm just sort of thinking out loud here, but imagine if you're walking around the site, if there's something very, very dangerous, you almost want some sort of almost like an instant alert, don't you, to say there's something dangerous there. But if you gave us a list of what those risks could be, then we can actually put them on the dashboard, and then we can think through how we might collect that data. Or
Gareth, it's Gareth, you're on, aren't you?
Yeah.
Gareth, I was just, we're working in Belgium at the moment. We've got that contractor that we're having to do a lot for them.
Yeah.
But it's all about them not understanding how to communicate the risk to their operatives.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could use that as a sort of test case to how this software would work to benefit that, because it's a live sort of case that you're working on at the moment on how to educate their operative. Because this is what we're trying to do here, isn't it? We're trying to educate operatives in the moment, and we're doing it from a very manual paper, quite laborious. This is going to speed up all of that and make the information to hand. So I think it could be a good exercise, Gareth.
Yeah, there's I said a chat with Charlie on Friday. I think now looking at it, there's a lot more things I can obviously share in terms of what we do in other areas that might be able to enhance this as well.
Okay. So after this session then, Gareth, if you could share some of those thoughts with Charlie and Olivia, then we can try and build in some of those journeys in there then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to put
it. Sorry.
One for me, if you don't mind me.
Oh, yeah, sure, Mark.
Sorry, one for me. When I was looking at the map earlier on, and you could see where John Martin was walking around. If, for example, there was a electrical distribution room, if John Martin walked into that room and he wasn't permitted to go into that room, is there something that lights that up as yellow? Or if he jumped onto a mast climber or onto another area that he was not that's of high risk, where that could set up an alert, or at the end of the day you can press a button and say how many people have gone into areas which they shouldn't have gone into.
Mark, you're talking about some sort of proximity alert, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. I think that's, it's a fair bit of work, obviously, setting up those permissions of which contracting can go where, but it's certainly possible based on, georeferencing these people and saying, right, okay, well, you're coming to do this job, you should be in this part of the site only. And, if we can get it down, if we can get the GPS down to sort of, a meter, 2 meters, that kind of thing, which, would be difficult in certain areas, but not so much in others, then I can't see that being too much of an issue. It's
I would use opt in, by the way, Charlie, not opt out. I would say nobody could go in that one that Mark's mentioned there. Yeah, basically nobody can go into that unless you've been ticked. So if you do it on an opt-in, that's an easier way. You've got to think about it less than.
Charlie, is this something around? I appreciate the technology behind GPS and everything, but if we kept this on-prem, so the sensors and either shortwave communication rather than needing a full GPS signal, it almost keeps the in terms of the data needed to process it, it just keeps it all localized. You won't have the difficulty of not having signal, of not having, I think there'll be, in terms of site to size, you can map this out pretty easy with proximity sensors or some IoT to get around that issue.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Gareth. Yeah, that's some of the stuff that's built into the hardware as well, but similarly easily rolled into the app as well. So for exactly those reasons where GPS coverage wouldn't work indoors, or you wouldn't want to rely on it, which I think is almost the kind of the kind of worst bit of it. Is just not accurate.
More cost effective too, really, because you're not relying on masses of data to transmit it.
Okay. Good point. So you've got those, Charlie. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. So made a little note. I think Gareth will probably have to catch up on that a bit later. Just keep me sort of my level of technology is just sort of going a little bit beyond me at the moment. So that's fine. We can catch up. So where were we? So yeah, accidents. So I think then crucially, when adding an accident, one of the hardest things to remember actually when reporting all these is to take some photos. So you've got a very obvious kind of prompt there for it, and then the ability to bring in witnesses as well, just in case they're required. So you can save that then, and then quick review of everything. Again, we're looking to have this kind of this form that you'd probably likely start it at the scene of the accident, do it on your phone and things like that, the ability to take your photos there. And you can also save that as a draft, go back to the cabin, finish it off there on a laptop. We're looking for it to be as flexible as possible. That's how you input data to this. So then similar kind of setup for a near miss at the moment. This does need a little bit of refining just in terms of what kind of data we're collecting again. And I think, again, it's that crucially what getting that information in order for this kind of black box thinking, which we've been talking about there. So it's pulling in all the different causes and all the different kind of different environmental scenarios, which we can look at for this near miss then.
Charlie, just a question on that. How does the information get, so in reference to near miss or whatever we want to call it, how does that information get populated into the system? Is it something that is, because I'll be really mindful of not overburdening an already overburdened project team by making them be the overall custodial owners of the system. So the current system we use is a QR code, and you hit the QR code and it takes you to a page, and then anyone can go on it. So you could log up to one of my sites, you don't need a password, you just go click and it will take you to what we call positive intervention toolkit. And that means that my site team don't have to do any typing, it just gets emailed to them and they go, oh, I've got a PI raised by Charlie because he wasn't very happy about a hammer nearly hitting him or whatever it might be.
So I think,
excuse me.
No, I think that's a very valid point. And we probably need to be looking at that kind of permission level for any kind of contractor to raise a near miss whenever possible. One of the levels we're looking at with this certainly is to have a kind of admin level as well, which you'd be able to be looking through data and sorting through that sort of stuff. And, they can then kind of do the background stuff with eyesight. But again, ultimately, I think the key for this is getting that information as clean as possible so that there doesn't have to be that kind of second handling of it in order for it to be then immediately uploaded into this kind of enterprise database, which can then be interrogated.
Another bit, Martin, about what you're saying about ease of entering that stuff in future versions. We can look at it and say, actually, maybe there's ways of auto completing this stuff. So if you know the person is, if you know where they are, if you know what they've been doing, if you know what their qualifications are, you could actually almost auto complete a really simple sentence about reporting it and just kind of add in some kind of different kind of variables for it. But
and we also, at the same time, bear in mind, we'll also need to give them the ability to be completely anonymous, and there will be people that I would like to engage with that won't ever, excuse me, that won't have ever come across eyesight. So members of the public walking past my site, if they don't feel safe, I'd like them to be able to blip on the old QR code and then give me that feedback. And they're never going to have that. So it needs to have that flexibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, the QR code is really, really simple integration to make. So, yeah.
I'll take your word for that. I'm just the guy who says I want it to do this. I've got no idea how it works. And if I'm honest, don't really care. That's not my bit.
It's black magic and voodoo.
It's pixie magic, I understand it to be. That's what I've always been told.
Indeed.
Highly specialised and very technical.
Sorry, Jimmy, guys.
We've hired John Martin.
Can I just throw in a couple of data protection things that have just sort of come into my head as we've been talking?
Yeah.
One of them is that just regarding the data we're collecting here, I'm not sure if the system can do this, but there needs to be a way of sort of setting individual retention policies depending on what the data is. Because as a company, we don't want to keep data for longer than is necessary, but equally certain things will be required to keep for 20 years, such as occupational health information, stuff to vanish after a shorter period. It's just something to factor in around the retention policies for each line of data and where that goes. And the second one is, and it's just thinking off the top of my head. God, sorry. The other one is just that we already get information on our existing systems. And I don't know the perspective on this, but would big organizations want to have the same data repeated on multiple sources, just for that data protection kind of concern? Just, I'm not sure I've got the answer on that. Just want to raise it.
Second question, Jackson. The idea here is to try and work out what information we think we want to collect as a group, which is good, and is going to address the whole process and the project we're doing. If we can then connect it to existing systems, there's no point in duplicating things. So if your existing systems all do this, then we might end up just having a collection point and doing it that way. If existing systems collect 95% of it, but there's an extra 5% you want, then we'll work on that piece. So that would be the second point. At the moment, we're trying to work out this over what we want, and then how we bolt in your existing systems will come from that. That's number one. Number two, on the first point actually, on the data retention, there's two ways of looking at it. I would think is you can actually store everything and then have a policy for you to archive it and do it yourself, or you just set some rules. So I'm not going to, John and John will know this more about for databases, but you can set rules in data to auto archive and stuff like that. So I think it would just be a case of once we've got a whole bunch of data sets, you would set some sort of time limits on that, and then that would then sort of go in there. But I suppose where it's statutory, that's an easy one. Where it's a company one, you might need to agree a profile between everybody, Jackson. So we go to market with one particular way.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was envisaging, Jared. It's just I just wanted to make sure it was sort of brought up in this, because it is something that's sort of recently been put on my agenda a little bit, where we're keeping this information.
Good point.
Gerard, the other prize here is joined up data, isn't it? So I'm absolutely with Jackson, ISG, and I'm sure Mark and all of us have all got our own systems, and we've all got our own data protection policies and retentions and all of that stuff. The prize here for me is that I can add my information into a level of anonymity and share it with ISG and Wilmots and anyone else who signs up to this, and then go, actually, we thought we were doing really good in halves, but look at the UK. Look, honest measure is we're not very good at that, or we're not very good at this, and that's the real prize, isn't it?
That's for me. If you build this massive, and that goes back a couple of meetings ago with Dave's point, which is why we're trying to get the AI piece in. If we can start to get a mass of information which can be analysed quite quickly and look at trends and exactly what you said on a purely anonymised basis, that to me is where we want to be. So that's, I want to see that at some point in the customer output or customer journey. Because you're right, Martin, that's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming that there might be modules in eyesight that we might not want, so we just don't take that bit.
Yes.
As a business, because obviously I work for Morgan Sindall, and we've got some due diligence applied to us from group, and they might go, no, we don't like that bit, and we'll go, okay, well we won't sign up to that bit then, but we will sign up to that bit, and that bit. I've given that flexibility of almost modularizing it means that no one's got the excuse to say it doesn't fit my business.
I think the one thing we would want to be mindful of, though, Martin, is if we're going to create this massive anonymized data to help everybody, there has to be some sort of commitment from all the companies to it. Maybe not put it in on a named base, but certainly on an anonymized basis, because we've got to, so we've got to maybe just be careful we don't over modularize it, because I think we need to have that core data which is going to be brought to the industry. That's got to be a central consideration, I think.
Gerard, I think you could do that by saying this is the minimum data set
Yeah,
required.
correct, Dave. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we'd work that bit out. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so whether that's collected via eyesight or via your own systems, they'll be kind of talking to each other. So we'll end up with that same info for that kind of enterprise architecture of info, which can be interrogated. So, Liv, where were we? Near misses. That's right. So again, yeah, just really kind of crucially on picking up that info that we need to build this information. Again, with the near miss, I think Martin, your point there of adding in the ability for any contractor to fill this in and send it off anonymously, I think that would be a massive addition to this. So that's one for the notes, John.
Yep, done and done.
Cool. So again, you can just review your NIMS report, everything like that, and then you confirm that, and it's sent off. So then, Liv, is it just the emergency buttons to do, or yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Then so
before we do that, Molly, just before we do that, so on the menu you can see there we can look at qualifications, we can look at this move towards competency as well, and any other core functionalities or anchor tenants we can build onto that menu as part of that. So that does the two things. One, we put that minimum data set that Dave mentioned, and two, we allow it to be modularized, Martin.
Yeah, no, brilliant. No, I'm just supporting what Jackson was saying about other systems, and I like, initially I like the interface. It looks really user friendly. Having seen loads of different systems like this that seem very complicated, because people are forever trying to sell it to us.
I bet.
Right, sorry.
Is that right?
If you guys are talking about competency, just so you're aware, IOSH actually released a new competency framework about a month ago, and there's 12 sort of items in there. It's not bad to sort of get your heads around what the areas of competency are.
Cool.
Who did that, Jackson?
That's IOSH, Institute of Safety.
I know IOSH. Yeah.
I'll have a read of that then. Cheers, Jackson. Cool. In this dashboard then.
Sorry, I know we're looking at is there something around linking this to like single sign-on, so we got Active Directory from people's companies that which would automatically just auto populate some of these things rather than selecting, and then probably the other thing I'm looking at, we've got accidents, incidents. It's probably the key one for me is what are the leading indicators, what are the unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, positive observations, what are we seeing that so we're seeing trends prior to stuff happening.
So one thing I've already sort of started speccing out and designing, it just wasn't quite ready for the demo today, is an A&I dashboard. So it'll be that kind of first layer before you get into the library to show things sort of that you were discussing, Dave, of having those data points that really key. So we've had X amount of accidents in this one specific area of the site. What is going on there? Why is there so much happening? And it brings in that kind of data collection, and you get a nice overview before you sort of having to drill down, including this. And I think that'll be a nice top level. It'll probably have exportable functions as well, so you can take that and deal with that data how you guys sort of see fit and stuff as well.
And I think, Gareth, on some of those workflows, if you want to speak to Charlie and Olivia offline, get your thoughts in there, and Olivia can sort of mock it up for you.
Okay. Yeah. So just to quickly finish off these. So in your kind of menu area, which would be similar on your phone as well, we're putting in these two buttons, emergency and near miss. So if you click on that emergency button there, it's basically if an accident's happened. So you can either click this yourself or on behalf of someone else if it's a serious accident and they don't want to get their phone out. So that would then, if we're thinking that this kind of dashboard desktop screen would be on a screen in the office kind of thing, the whole thing turns red. It alerts the site manager, health and safety manager, first aiders on site to the accident, pinpoints where it is there. So sort of that, if you imagine, that person there is glowing red and it's, it attracts people's attention there. So that's kind of like you can therefore immediately locate where the accident is, and it calls first aiders to go and help with the accident. So just a little sort of feature there of kind of like emergency response that's possible with eyesight. So then we, if you were to have just your phone on you kind of thing whilst that was happening, you'd get an alert or a message or something that would come through immediately, just as you would with any other sort of update or notification on your phone. So you would be able to find out where that accident is and go and assist if you were a registered first aider. So is that everything, Liv? I think that
is everything I've got on my side. Yeah.
Cool. Cheers for that.
Okay. So is that the end of the demo?
That is the end of the demo at the moment. Yeah, that's kind of that's what Liv's got to so far. As I say, there are other things which we are looking at putting into, but I think we can all agree a fair bit of work's gone into just producing that. So cheers for that, Liv.
No worries.
Is it so? As an action, then, is it worth, Charlie, you and John M, collating everybody's comments today, sending a note round and saying, is this what you want us to do? And then if anybody's got some specific points, why don't they have a session separately with Olivia and Charlie just to raise those, particularly Gareth's idea, and then Olivia can actually fine tune this and add in some of that, so we can try and get to some sort of consensus. And I think at the same time, having some of the points in the background, like retention of data, connection with other things, GDPR, and just some policies and some basic policies on that. So that gives us effectively an MVP, some sort of consensus on what we're trying to do, and some consensus on policies. And if we've got that, that is then the sort of good starting point. Is everybody happy to do that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. So what does everybody think? Is this the sort of direction of travel, do we think?
Looks good. Well done, Olivia.
So the other thing we've been doing in the background, just to let you know, is we are now working with the AMRC, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Group or Research Centre in Sheffield, that we've sort of got a partnership with. And Charlie is in the very first throes of putting together an Innovate UK bid to get to apply for some funding to help us develop this as a group. So just, don't get too excited, but we're applying for £500,000 Innovate UK funding. And we've got the team at AMRC who are helping us work up a bid. Now from that, and the bid is June, July, is it, Charlie?
Oh, I wish it's May.
It's May, sorry, it's sooner. Now with that come some requirements from you guys, and those requirements are not particularly difficult. It's more, is this a good idea? Support letters, ideas, and Charlie has to put together a whole prospect of how we commercialize this and monetize it. But
it's the same bid we did for Babel.
It is, that's right, yeah. So this will be so this is quite an interesting process now. And the team at AMRC are putting their bid team on this through our partnership, so we're not paying for that. And obviously, that's why we want to try and get the MVP to some sort of finished date, because that forms the basis of part of the bid we're going for.
And crucially, they'll be really instrumental in getting the kind of the AI side of it, and that kind of the collection of data and stuff, and they can use their expertise to get that working for us. Because I think that's probably the bit which it's the technological bit which is going to be beyond us all a little bit with that kind of side of it. So their input into this, having closely worked with the likes of BAE and all that sort of stuff and things like that, and Rolls-Royce with Black Box and things like that, this could be absolutely could be a great development for eyesight and be able to push it forward. I mean, to put it into context, one of the guys there, he's now part-time at AMRC, and he works on a lot of different sites now with his dad, who's in a pipe engineering company. He himself said, I wish I could have this now. It would just save me a lot of time, save me a little hassle, everything like that. So there's there's a real appetite for it. The AMRC are quite excited about it as well. There was no hesitation in thinking we should go for this bid. You know, they think it's a real goer. So I think, yeah, in terms of moving forward, I think they're just kind of after some commitments from companies such as yourself saying like, yeah, we think it's a good idea. We'll certainly trial it out. We'll be looking to, you know, if it goes into full development, we'd be looking to use it on our sites, etc., etc. So.
Yeah, so I think we're, you know, I think they call them support letters. So I think letters of endorsement. So Charlie will be ringing around with his begging bowl for these letters in the next Okay, so is anything else on that? Anything else on the product then?
I don't think so from that side, no.
So give us an update on the hardware side, because and what's the relationship between the software and the hardware, Charlie?
Yeah, well, there's the hardware is pretty much done now. So there's a few kind of little things we need to decide on the finishing off of it. Kind of we're looking at the size of it and how it would be operated, kind of in terms of batteries and stuff and things like that. So we're looking at how much it would send out updates basically. So I mean, I think ideally what would work best is getting as many updates as possible. If you're tracking people around a site, you don't want it every 5 minutes, because 5 minutes is quite a long time in an accident world. So it's a case of creating something which can be easily chargeable every day. So I don't know if, yeah, there's, I think I'll see if I can find some pictures of it, but and get them around to you. But yeah, ultimately we're looking at stuff which is stackable and chargeable that way, and therefore you can, you don't have to have like 16 different power outputs per day and things like that. I think it'll all be wirelessly charged, so it should be quite easy. But in terms of that, yeah, I think we're not far off being able to sort of have a little run around whole of it and test it. And the guy who's developed it has actually created a bit of a dashboard for it himself, so he's been looking at it, so he can show, so we can connect us with that and see how it works. So it's a case of I think quite simply linking those two together and putting that different interface of the eyesight dashboard that we've been looking at to what his is doing there. So yeah, that's in terms of progress. It's actually the hardware which has progressed, I think, the most and is looking the most confident at the moment. So yeah, I think we're not too far away from being able to, as Martin would say, try and break that.
There's also some options as well around mobile app, isn't there? We've had talks as an alternative to a card. If phones are allowed on site, then there is a possibility that eyesight could roll into a mobile application. It's something that can be downloaded onto Android or Apple to kind of facilitate that ease of use more than anything else. Kind of make it part of the toolkit, as it were.
So the idea then is you don't have to buy the hardware if you don't want to.
Yeah, remove the barrier. Yeah,
you can use the device's hardware technology, but if you don't have a phone, or you don't want to use a phone or can't use a phone, you can have the option to have the hardware to do the location piece for you, the location identification. So that could keep the cost down and make it a lot more sort of adoptable.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
So with the hardware, is there possibility to make it almost like an attachment to a helmet or something, so it's more becomes part of PPE rather than an additional strap or something else they got to wear or stick on? It's almost the point.
Yeah.
If it's a cost to it, if that becomes less than a set of goggles or a hard hat, then it's more palatable and it's kind of packaged up like PPE rather than an additional cell.
Definitely, yeah. The electronics is tiny. I mean, you could put it into anything in a moment. There's a kind of ruggedized case, which I think we're going to talk to the MRC about. Is it connected, helping the thing? But yeah, you could embed it in something else. Absolutely. Almost the limiting thing is that the thing you can't get away from is battery size, and so a lot of the work Hayden's done is on battery optimization and power optimization. So you don't have to go to cart around a great big battery. Similarly, people have we don't want to introduce any additional health and safety issues. Some people might be concerned about lithium-ion batteries on helmets and stuff. So yeah.
I think if you look at the way sort of technology's gone in sport now, the kids running around with the football, Premier League and rugby and all that, cricket, They have a. If you look at some of the sheets, they have a device, don't they, in the back of their shirts now, which is fitted into the shirts, Gareth?
I think it's done by cameras now.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, exactly.
So there's no actual devices. It's just done by the cameras, I think. Or talking to.
So is that,
that's
the actual?
So that's a picture of it. Yeah. So that's a 5p piece for scale. And the battery. That battery.
Is that a 10p piece?
That's 5.
That's a 5 pence.
5 pence piece. That.
That's
So
5 pence piece. Big on my screen.
That's my fake money. So yeah, you can double up the motherboard like that, so you can compress it a little bit more. That battery there is about a day's use, and it will fire out a signal every 2 seconds there. So that's the kind of idea of that size battery, of what it produced from that kind of point. So we're thinking, it would fit on a lanyard as a kind of almost like medallion type thing. I think in terms of being able to sort of like slot it into a hard hat, I think potentially, but it needs to be kind of quite easily removable to charge each night as well, based on that battery size. So I think we need, there might be some options to explore with that one. Yeah, it's got kind of ease of use of charging over ease of use of keeping it with you.
Can I ask you a question about hard hats? Does everybody wear a hard hat all the time on sites now? Is it really, is that or would you put it more on a high vis?
The challenge with a hard hat, no one's answering that, Gerard, because they don't want to answer it honestly. In answer to your question, should everyone be wearing a hard hat all the time? Yes. In reality, we all get to a stage of a job where we deregulate because the job is finished. And anyone who says, "Oh no, my guys wear hats right to the very end," we're walking around with a client handing a job over, they're wearing hats. It's no different than being in your office. So it probably the eyesight needs to probably have a selection of. It can clip to the back of a hat. It can clip on your belt. You can stick it in your pocket. Any number of those kind of things. To me. We already have technology that clips on the back of hats, so I don't think anyone's going to particularly jump up and down and go, "Oh, I'm not wearing a battery on the back of my hat," as long as it doesn't unbalance the lid and give people neck injuries. And there will always be 90, probably of our projects, 99% of the time, yes, you got a hat on, but there'll always be that point where you get past that stage of wearing primary PPE because you're just so close to the end of the job.
So I think you answered the question already. So if you can have it with some sort of attachment on the hard hat or on a high vis or a lanyard, or as you said, in your pocket even, I think that's the key. I mean, a lot of these things, if it's that small, you can slide it. I mean, you've got to actually make sure it's too small so it disappears actually. You've got to be a bit careful, I suppose. But if you can slot it in, there's loads of ways of doing fittings, aren't there? So I think that's probably right. In fact, if you're putting it in your pocket, you might want it to be a bit bigger, actually. You might lose it.
Yeah.
But okay. All right.
Mark's had to drop off this session, so he sends his apologies because his Wi-Fi is just playing up too much and he can't hear anything. So he'll watch it back.
Can we give him loads of actions then?
That's how it works. Yeah.
Just say I'll just send him a message on I've got a little WhatsApp group and say Jackson's just give you a load of actions.
Thanks for that. Me.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we are. So okay, so that was really the session for today. So Simon's obviously joined it, where we've done a lot of the work before, but we're sort of getting closer. So I think for me, I'd like to see Olivia and Charlie spending some time with you all and coming up with just trying to fine tune that, getting it ready, so we get something that looks like our customer journey, and then we can start to put some spec around it for developing it. And then probably on the hardware piece, try and do a demo of the hardware piece, Charlie.
Yeah, I think so. So I'll catch up with Hayden, who's the guy who's developing it, and see kind of when that would be possible. I think, you know, in terms of it working and everything, it's all fine to trial. It's just the kind of finishing touches, as we said, of size and how it looks and all that sort of stuff. So.
Well, what we could do, Charlie, is maybe for the next session, if you or somebody kind of was actually out and about walking around, we could do a screen share of Hayden's temporary dashboard and actually sort of see it working as moving around. So that'd be quite a kind of useful thing to see.
We put a date in the diary, guys, didn't we? 20th of May, which is like our future construction day. So I think did you socialise that, Charlie?
I needed to talk to you about that. We're still on for the 20th of May, I think, but I did need to catch up with you.
Well, is that because are you getting married now or something?
No, I'm not. Well, I still am, but not then.
All right. Okay. So okay. So we well, I'll talk to you offline about that, then, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I suppose the question is, would it be better to do a demo if we were all together? You know, physically, rather than trying to construct something online, because it could get a bit out of hand, really. I don't know. So are we able to do? Well, what's the deadline for the bid, by the way, Charlie?
It's in the 20s of May, I think. I've forgotten the exact deadline for it.
So there's a piece, and you're having weekly meetings on this with the AMRC team, aren't you, every Friday now?
Yeah.
So that's coming together now. So I suppose if there's any requirements from the team here, you'll just liaise with them, will you? Endorsement.
Yeah, May 26th. So I think, we need to, again, I'll talk to you offline about a few other things with it, but it's just be, as I say, I'll get in contact with individual people on this call. And see what we need. It won't be more than, I think they said, it's about like 100 words for each person or something like that. So real quick, easy task.
Okay. So by the next meeting, then, do we think have had one-to-one sessions with everybody to just firm up what version 1 in our mind, some sort of consensus with some policies around retention, GDPR, and also connections to third-party pieces of software. We could probably do that in the next month. Do we think, guys?
Yeah.
If we get some meetings in early, give Liv enough time to
work up. You can also, because she's halfway through doing a mobile version as well, but she didn't want to show it today because it's not quite right. So we're going to do like the mobile version of it as well. So that'll be good. Okay, so that's number 1. Then number 2 on the hardware. Do you want to just come up with some timelines? Would people be prepared to meet in April, end of April?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get back to real.
Preferably. Out of the house a bit.
Back to real. Yeah. Okay. So okay, if that's the case, then maybe when you get a timeline, Charlie. So if you're looking at the diary.
Would we be looking at May?
No,
or April?
End of April, actually. 3rd of March today. So the 27th, 28th, 29th, does that provide enough time? Do you think?
Should do, yeah.
Guys, what do you reckon?
29th is good.
Yeah, it's fine for me.
Yeah, the 29th is probably the day I can't do, actually.
Yeah, I can't do the 29th. I could do 28th anytime. If it's useful, we've got a big new sort of studio presentation collaboration space that's really big, opening probably a couple of weeks before that. So we could use that space in Hull if needed. So there's like stacks of room for social distancing and loads of presentation kit and all sort of remote kit as well. So
that'd be good.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
How's everybody on the 27th? It's my birthday, by the way, so you can bring me presents.
I don't think that's the way it works.
We're gonna, Gerard, Morganson, we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle that week because it's our National Safety Week. So we've got stuff running all over the place. I'm doing 10 presentations that week.
How about the following week?
Do it the following week. 4th, 5th, or 6th of May.
6th. I could do the 6th.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going away for half term, are they?
I can do 6.
Fine.
Yeah,
6
6
is
was good for me.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so let's pencil in the 6th then.
For a
Subject
face-to-face.
Subject to European vaccinations.
So that'll be face-to-face then.
Yeah. Face to face, I'll be really good at.
Cool.
Do that because I think the hardware demo would be quite difficult online like this. I think.
Well, it'll be better to show the app stuff as well,
And
because I can do it on my phone.
As well, can't you? Because you've got a loader for that. So.
Yes.
Okay, so that was it really. Any other questions?
So, Charlie, Olivia, are you going to contact us to make some one-to-ones for us to go through it individually? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try and sort that out as soon as.
Just to just for completeness, Olivia's my eldest daughter, and she's got the same haircut as me. Have you noticed?
This is by choice. His isn't. Just to clarify.
You wish, Gerard.
Just for clarity, this is by choice.
She did 2 days ago, by the way, and she shaved it off to help for cancer. And
I did it for Macmillan. That was back in September the first time, and then I just did this because I was bored of having hair again. So
there you go. Yeah. Mine's never been that colour, by the way. Just to yeah. Okay.
All right, good stuff.
All right. So any other business?
No.
I think
so.
Charlie and Olivia have done a good job there, everybody.
I think they've done an excellent job.
Yeah, well done.
Done a really good job. So I think it starts to look like something now, Dave, doesn't it? And I'll get some thoughts.
Yeah, I think I think it was Martin said it feels like a usable. The point is never overcomplicate it, because if you overcomplicate it, the operatives won't use it, and if the operatives don't use it, then it's pointless.
yeah.
And Martin hit on something that I was chatting to Gareth about. Is we get a tool that people can use and they feel that the usability is good, people will use it. Like, why do you use Amazon? Right? Because it's easy. Right? So if you make this the Amazon of the safety world, like, you'll get everybody using it because it's easy.
Great.
That's no accident. That's why we start with prototyping.
Yeah, and
you see, it's user experience.
Dave, you can flog it to Amazon as well, then, can't you? Put you down as that. Okay, that's good. All right, so we've got some dates there. 6th of May.
Yep.
We've got some one-to-one sessions, and I think we've got a plan on that, so that's coming together quite nicely. Okay.
Cool.
Right. Simon, was that okay for you for your first meeting?
It was very interesting, thank you. Yes, I haven't contributed a lot. There's a lot to take in there, and I'll probably do with a catch up with Charlie as well to understand a bit more detail about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll let Charlie organise the one-to-ones with him and Olivia, and then we'll get that in place. So if you could do some, that'd be great then. Okay. All right, everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all. Nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers all.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye bye.